Welcome to the Lake Superior Podcast. I'm Walt Lindelof.
And I'm Frida Wara. We are made stronger by story, and there's no better source than the continent's largest body of fresh water, Lake Superior.
So join us as we highlight the 5 national parks that ring this greatest of the Great Lakes, meet the people, tour the places, and learn about the projects that make these parks and body of water so remarkable.
This podcast made possible with the support of the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation and Media Brew Communications. Walt, did you know there are 423 national park sites in the U.S., and 63 of those carry the national park in their name, like Yosemite and Yellowstone and Isle Royale? But that's really just the start, because in fact, there are 20 different types of properties amongst that national park umbrella, including battlefields, monuments, and memorials. Even the White House is part of our national park properties. And we're lucky to have 5 right here on Lake Superior. One of those, Pictured Rocks, which is the closest to us here in Marquette, became our first national lakeshore back in 1966. It's got to be one of my favorite playgrounds. Winter or summer, spring or fall, man, there's nothing like that. Pictured Rocks to get your perspective back about that big blue out there. And today we get to learn more about what makes the South Shore of Lake Superior between Munising and Grand Marais and Alger County, Michigan, so unique.
Yep, that's right. We are joined right now on the line by Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore Superintendent David Horne. Good day there, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah, we have, we wanted to have you on to talk about this. For a lot of folks, Pictured Rocks is for some right around the corner, or at least definitely a destination. And we wanted to talk with you a little bit about, before we get into the specifics with Pictured Rocks, tell us about your national park career, how those experiences led you to the unique park of Pictured Rocks.
I've been in the Park Service about 26 years or so. A couple of those were seasonal employment. But I was very much an operations guy. I was a park ranger, search and rescue, law enforcement, that field in the park. And my early career was mostly out west. Actually, I should say before that, I was enlisted in the Coast Guard for 4 years. Oh, okay. Got out, went to college, and then kind of went right into the Park Service. So I started at Sequoia. I won't get these in order. I'm not sure I'll get them all either, but Sequoia, Big Bend National Park in southwest Texas, Yosemite National Park, Lake Mead National Recreation Area, a couple of regional offices. One was in Denver, one in Atlanta. And, we moved up here. My family and I moved up here from Atlanta. I was the regional chief for the Southeast region, and was very, very lucky and proud to get this job up here.
I got to ask you real quick. It comes to my mind. You mentioned that you joined the Coast Guard, and of course, water and the big lake is a big part of what Pictured Rocks is. How did those come together? Maybe how did it all happen then that you ended up at Pictured Rocks?
I don't know. I mean, I like to think that it wasn't a deciding factor, I'm sure, when they were vetting this job. But, it's probably back of somebody's mind, because what's fantastic, what I really love, is being in the Coast Guard. We actually are charged with taking care of 4 historic Coast Guard stations, a couple lighthouses. Our headquarters is in a small boat station in Munising, and there's another station in Grand Marais. So they're just beautiful facilities, beautiful buildings and locations, and it's just a great honor to be able to take care of those. And we're in the process of restoring and trying to get the landscape around them and the buildings back in Coast Guard order. But they're very old. They take quite a bit of maintenance, so it's an ongoing process.
I have to ask you, Dave, Kodiak, Alaska, Munising, Michigan. A lot of times people look at Lake Superior and they think, well, I should be able to see across it because it is a lake. And of course, we know it's that Sweetwater Sea out there. How do those waters, are they different, a lot different from each other, or do they act the same when they get in their moods?
Yeah, I mean, they're both very challenging operational environments for sure, very dangerous and still very different. So, yeah, I mean, there's some similarities and some obvious differences. I got to be honest, though, the winters are tougher in Munising.
I'm not really surprised by that, to be honest. I mean, especially with some of the stretches we're seeing this year with cold weather and everything. And you know, that kind of ties into folks that would visit Pictured Rocks. What do you tell people maybe that they are the first-time winter visitors to Pictured Rocks? What do you tell them?
Well, there's actually a lot to do. And if people are coming here in the winter, they generally know what they're going to do. But we're crowded on the weekends, and you know, when I drive into work every day, the parking lot is pretty much full, and I'd say there's 3 basic user groups out there right now. People just coming in and just do a little sightseeing. You can walk on the lake. We finally froze up for a section of it out there, right off along the shore there. There's a lot of ice fishing. We got a lot of ice fishermen out there every day, and ice climbers, of course. Yeah. So. There's actually a lot of recreation. You know, I'll also mention we groom our own ski trails, cross-country ski trails in Grand Marais and in Munising. Our staff does a phenomenal job on that, too. They do a great job with that. And also snowshoeing. That we just opened a snowshoe trail here in Munising that's been very popular so far. So, yeah, there's a lot to do here in the winter.
We're talking with David Horne, who is superintendent at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. Dave, that kind of covers the things for winter visitors, but what about summer visitors? What can you tell them to expect?
Summer, statistically, that's all of our visitation. You know, we have quite a bit of visitors in the winter, but the bulk of it comes in about 100 days during the summer months. And again, it's different activities, but there's a lot of activities. There's backpacking. You can backpack the whole 42.5 miles of the North Country Trail, which is amazing. I've actually personally done it a couple of times. It's just stunning. I think it's one of the best trails in the country for sure. Sea kayaking, just going to the beach, relaxing and boating and fishing, and just all the typical outdoor stuff you would do. This is a wonderful place to do it. In the summer weather is fantastic. I think a lot of people come up here just because it's quite a bit cooler too. You know, or it gets into the 80s and people are like, oh, wow, it's hot out here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is really the popular time, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, July 4th weekend is when we just spike, and that pretty much holds, for the next 2.5 months solid.
You know, I have to admit, I think it's very rare to see a tourism ad for Michigan without a beautiful shot of Pictured Rocks. So we have been seeing folks come from all over the country. And your numbers, when you use the word spike, Dave, you're not using that. I mean, that is an accurate way to say that numbers, what's promoted all these folks coming up this far north?
That's a great question. I'll take a stab at it. Michigan had a very successful program with Pure Michigan. And so over the past, actually since 1966, our visitation has grown a little bit every year, as you would expect. And then H58, the highway, got paved about 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. That really brought a lot more people in. It was really gorgeous backcountry locations that were a lot more accessible. And so in the last 10 years, we've literally more than doubled, 140% about. And 2019 was an incredible record for us. We have had 858,000 visitors for the year. Last year, we had 1.2 million.
Jeez, that's amazing. That is amazing that people are coming in those numbers.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking, because we have the same staff, the same facilities. It was just a lot of people.
We're talking with David Horne here, superintendent at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. And Dave, with all these people that come in the summer, they come in the winter, there must be, at least in your opinion, the must-see or must-do kind of things for the various seasons. What must people not miss in the winter, and then what must they not miss in the summer?
So in the winter, it depends. If you don't like ice fishing, you're just not going to like ice fishing. But
right.
I think if you want to see some really gorgeous sites that are literally a couple hundred feet off of the road on Sandpoint Road, the frozen waterfalls are amazing. I remember when I first got here, those were just incredible, and I would just walk up and take a look and watch the ice climbers and join them occasionally, and those are just incredibly beautiful formations, and they're so accessible. They're just literally right off the road. So I would highly recommend that. We're also pretty famous for night sky. It's a very rural. UP in general is very rural, but if you access our beach, summer or winter, but especially in the winter, there's just less people. We have incredible night sky. You can view the Milky Way basically.
Frankly, if you get out on that ski trail and just let yourself say, I don't know what century I'm in anymore, it can really happen. And I think that's what lures people from the cities. I think they need some adjustment time, a little bit of adjustment time, because they all get a little bit nervous about, my cell phone might not work. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, what is that like, Dave? I mean, for you, in terms of like the people that you talk to that are coming up, they're visiting maybe first time or they haven't done it in a long time. How do you help them? How do you and the staff help them there at the National Lakeshore to kind of be ready for that? How do you kind of acclimate them to it?
Well, we've had to make a lot of changes this year. Our chief of interpretation, Sue Reese, has done a great job just shifting to social media and videos. And, she does educational videos for kids and just informational videos. That tends to be where we're going, because we had to shut our visitor centers down last year because of COVID. So she's really adapted to that really quickly. So that's really, and on our boards you can still call a number and talk to a park ranger. We still try to be out there and chat with people, but COVID has really changed things quite a bit.
So you put a lot of things online, or at least accessible that way, to kind of get people in the frame of mind. And that if it's a silver lining out of COVID, it's actually made it maybe a little easier to get this information to people that are visiting.
Yeah, no, I think Sue's done just a fantastic job with that. You mentioned the ski trails too. I appreciate the plug for those, because our maintenance staff works really hard on keeping those groomed. Like I said, we have a very small staff to get out there as often as they can. But that's what people, it's not a ski resort,
right?
But that's what I think a lot of people like about it. It's not. We don't have a lodge, and you're paying for a ticket, and it's definitely a backcountry experience, I think, or a little more of a wilderness experience.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's just a fantastic experience, and it's just, you can just drive up, pull your skis out, and start skiing.
We're talking with David Horne today. He is the superintendent at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore here on our podcast. Dave, question I have for you is, you talk about hiking trails and skiing trails and over the unique topography and everything that is within the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, but you also have these miles and miles of the rugged shoreline on Lake Superior. What unique challenges does that create for your job and for the staff at the park?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've gone through a lot of growth over the past several years. The discovery of what a great place it is for sea kayaking is just that activity has really exploded. And so we have several companies that offer guided trips, and that's part of our evolution with that. Is we only offer, or the companies that work with us only offer guided trips, because it is there's been some mishaps, and it's just a very hazardous environment. It can be. When it's not, it's gorgeous. It's flat water. You're cruising next to the cliffs. Mm-hmm. But when it's not, it can be downright scary. So it's an outstanding, just wonderful way to see the cliffs. And I think it's managed in a really safe and just approachable way right now. I think our businesses that run the guide service down there do a great job.
I have to applaud that. Dave, I'm a kayaker. I've circumnavigated Isle Royale. I've paddled from Big Bay to Grand Marais. In fact, I showed up at the Sea Kayak Symposium in Grand Marais one year because I paddled there instead of drove. And that was really fun. Bill Thompson at Downwind Sports greeted me, and he was like, yeah, I can tell you've been in the water. But I have to tell you that is so important, because people look out at that big blue and they don't understand. They may not have the spray skirt. They may not have had the chance to understand what it is to do a wet exit, what it is to rescue. And I think that the companies have really stepped up. And the idea that we also have a company that will take you out in a boat and launch from the water rather than from the shoreline, so that they can just keep people rounded up, because storms happen so quickly on that water. And if you get yourself out there, you have to understand, out of that 42 miles of shoreline, you've got a long stretch there with no out. Mm-hmm. There's no place to beach.
You can't just pull into a beach. That's exactly right. You might be And every year we do have, there's the random person that'll buy a kayak at Target or whatever and launch it, and we find those. That becomes an emergency because you got to match a person with an empty boat. So that still happens. We try to sign it, try to get a lot of information out there, but unfortunately it still happens occasionally.
We're talking with David Horne today. He's superintendent at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. What are the big projects on your desks right now? What are you looking at in terms of going forward in this year, and maybe projects and things you're looking forward to for the summer season?
Yeah, we always have projects cooking. We've got a bunch of projects that aren't super sexy, but we work on. I'll be honest, human waste is getting to be a challenge.
I would imagine that's true. I can see that with the increase of people leave stuff behind, whether it's, whatever, it's got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, that was something different last year as well, too, is we had, I think people look on a map and it's a dotted line that's an inch and it looks pretty doable. So they bring their mattress and ice chests and wheel all that stuff back into the backcountry and don't feel like pulling it out. So there's several camps that we had to haul out.
Yeah.
But yeah, just we're trying to figure out, and this is kind of service-wide, National Park service-wide, trying to figure out how to manage human waste in the backcountry. It's a challenge. The places you can drive up to, not so much, but those backcountry locations are tougher. We have some plans being developed with our Coast Guard stations, Grand Marais Coast Guard Station and Sandpoint. Sandpoint, we've done quite a bit of work already. It's got fresh paint, new roof. Long term, we'd love to empty out the boathouse and kind of restore it back to a boathouse, just so people can see what that actually looked like. We had built a box inside of it that was used for a maintenance facility for years, many years ago. So we're just trying to do some restoration projects like that too.
Well, David, I got to say, it's been a pleasure talking with you here. We'll wrap up here in a little bit, but we do want to know, this is a great question that Frida came up with. She wants to know, and I agree too, is there a gem that you've discovered about Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore that maybe others don't know that much about? Is there a special place for you in this park?
I've had the opportunity to hike the trail with, one of my kids every year. Couldn't do it last year because of lots of reasons. COVID was one of the main ones, but I'm hoping to do that again this year. But there are just so many incredible places that you can't drive to, that you have to at least walk a few miles into, that are along the coast that feels like a little island in the sky. One of them, I don't even know if it has a name, but it's a little spit that just jets out. There's just so many of those types of places along the North Country Trail that are just incredible. And so, if you can hike the trail, I would highly recommend it. It's full of those spaces.
Absolutely. One of my favorite places, Walt, and I love to take this picture. It becomes a picture that I use definitely for my graduation cards to the kids. Because when you go to Chapel Beach and you look at that pine on top of that sandstone and you see those roots, it's like, don't ever forget your roots, but go and bloom where you're planted, and don't be afraid to face the north wind and let it bring whatever it's got, because you've got a pretty good foundation. And I think it's important that we don't ever drive to that. I say that now, because
maybe when
I don't know.
I'm
gonna find some folks that'll get me there, or I'll try to figure out how I can always get there by kayak too, because to approach it either from land or water, it is absolutely spectacular. And you do get to go by that if you take the Pictured Rocks boat cruise. You'll get a chance to see it as well. But that site is one of the phenomenons of the world, I believe.
Dave, if there are people have questions, like they want to go and see what Frida's talking about, maybe they want to see a little bit more of what the park is, get more information, and how to contact you and your staff, what's the best way to do that?
Our website is definitely the best way to do that. And if you just Google Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, it's the nps.gov site. That'll have our contact. It's got a wealth of information on there.
And your Facebook page is wonderful too.
Facebook is, yes, that's true. Like I said, I'll mention Sue Reese again. She does just an incredible job with her social media and keeps it up to date. And it's just her doing it for the most part. She does a great job with that.
and the photographers that you seem to gather. It's wonderful. And the night sky, for those folks that are looking, it's very rare that someone will tell you you need to come to a national park because you need to come and see it at night.
You got to see it in the dark.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm underscoring that big time. And also some of the pictures that have been captured from the ice climbers and the way the ice curtains make it at night. It's really special.
Well, David, thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure having you on talking about Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. It is a treat to visit, even if you can just come by, take one of the boat cruises, whatever it is. And certainly if you have any kinds of things coming up that you want to get on with the podcast with Frida and I, just find us. We'll be happy to have you back anytime soon, okay?
Well, that's fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thanks, David.
Wonderful.
All right. Talk to you later.
It's David Horne with us today on our podcast talking about the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. He's the superintendent there, Frida. It was really interesting talking with Dave about the park. As you could hear it in what he was talking about, that there is an understanding of, like with many of the national parks along Lake Superior, there's an understanding of it having a modern application and a modern enjoyment, but years upon years, and with Pictured Rocks, centuries of history there to see.
Amazing.
It is worth it making the trip. Even if you're just taking a cruise to go see the Pictured Rocks, take the time to find out more about Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. We again thank David Horne, the superintendent at the park there. All kinds of great opportunities all around Lake Superior. That's what we like to talk about here on the podcast. We thank you for checking us out today. And if you've got any ideas, you can find us through the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation. Happy to help you out with getting any information you're looking to find out about all of the national parks along Lake Superior.
And any story ideas or topics that we haven't yet covered.
Sounds
good.
Happy
to hit that one.
I'm Walt Lindola.
And I'm Frida Wara.
Thank you for listening today and enjoy the National Parks of Lake Superior.
The National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation, NPLSF, is the only official nonprofit 501c3 fundraising partner of the National Park Service for all 5 U.S. national park sites on Lake Superior.
To learn more about NPLSF projects and programs, you can visit the website at nplsf.org or friend them on Facebook.
I'm Frida Wara.
And I'm Walt Lindola. Thanks for listening to the Lake Superior Podcast.
This podcast made possible with the support of the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation and Media Brew Communications.